Hi, and welcome to the last Fireside chat in April. My name is Amy DeBeck, and it is my privilege and honor to be the minister at UUFE, and I really appreciate my husband jumping in last week because I was having a little bit of a flagged spirit. And I want to talk about that in today's Fireside chat so that we can have a better understanding of how we might proceed forward. At our brief board meeting last night, wherein it was decided that we won't meet in person for May, a decision I agree with, I was asked if it's harder to lead worship online than when we're all together. I answered yes. I didn't even have to think about it. I just answered yes. But now I've been thinking about it. I think the extreme lessons we've had under duress is what made me say, yes, online worship is more difficult. But really, when I think about it, it's not necessarily going to be more difficult moving forward, but it will be different. One challenge is that both Zoom and YouTube are very precise about what they allow and what they do not. At times, we have experienced when the internet is unstable, whether it's in our home or the neighborhood, but at times, this is a second problem. The internet is unstable, so that uploading and downloading something that should only take a short time takes much, much longer. So between the internet being spotty sometimes and YouTube and Zoom being touchy about what they accept, we've had quite a learning curve. One time, Kevin, and I'm going to put myself in there because, I support him and hang out with him while he's doing the editing. Kevin and I, as support, had gone all the way through the process of putting together a service. This is writing it and taping it and all of that. We had gone all the way through the process, including the 1.5 hours that it took to download onto the offline program that he uses called Movie Maker, and then another 2 hours to upload that finished piece onto YouTube, only to have YouTube block the entire thing. Blocking means they won't upload it. Now, most of the time, it's only blocked until they investigate whether or not there has been some transgression. They investigate it, and then they let it go on and play freely. But that investigation can be minutes or days, seriously. There is no message about what was flagged as objectionable because of copyright, nor is there any idea of how long the investigation will take. And they could just block the 10 seconds or 4 minutes or however long got flagged. They could just block that and let it go on while it's being investigated. But no, they don't do that. They make it so difficult. We had to edit the video. We had finished the whole thing. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And we had to take the piece back to the computer and guess what was causing the problem. We had tried to use a piece of recorded music behind something else. So we had to guess what was causing the problem, cut that off the video, load it on to Movie Maker again, which took another hour and a half to load. And then when it was done, we had to load that onto YouTube. This time it only took 47 minutes. We hoped it would pass muster and that YouTube would post it. They did, and we had a Sunday service. By the way, and when you see that on the internet, BTW, that means by the way. By the way, 3 days later, we got a message that the first one had not been approved. It took 3 days to investigate, but they had flagged it immediately. Now, maybe telling you about all of this seems really nitpicky to describe it in such detail. But the thing is, all of this was happening to real people. This was happening to Kevin and me, and it started at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night after a really long week, after a really long day. And it wasn't that late at night and go into the morning because we procrastinated, because we didn't. It didn't happen this late because we have poor time management. We are inventors. We couldn't know how long it was going to take until we tried it. This is what it feels like to be operating inside of a learning curve where there are no teachers to check on you and say, hey, correct at this point. Hey, do less of this or more of that. We have no idea if what we're doing will work until we try it, experience some failure, make adjustments, and keep trying. I'm in very close contact for learning and teaching and sharing resources with a lot of colleagues, and we're all figuring this out. What it brings up for many of us, definitely me, besides the immediacy of learning this tech stuff, is that none of this is temporary. It signals a change, not just a substitution. So we all end up dealing with the meta questions of what it all means. And we have to deal with this while we're exhausted and bedraggled and in grief. I've gotten better at sticking to the immediate problem, figuring out the issues, and being able to have some wins in my column. I do this looking at a problem as having a silver lining, not to be in denial, but to get over the anxiety that happens when there is just so much uncertainty. Music is probably the biggest area causing the positives of creativity and appreciation, but also causing us to navigate through our feelings of trauma and loss over not being able to practice the free exchange and collaboration that music offers. For instance, I love this band that's called Panic at the Disco. I love listening to their CDs, but to be at the Fieldhouse in Indy with 20,000 other fans for a concert, well, that's a religious experience. Singing your favorite hymn in your living room while watching and listening to Maeve or Carl play it is good, but it's not congregational singing, and it's definitely not a choir. Not that we had a choir, but there was always hope we might. So I get a little bogged down sometimes. I get really hung up thinking, should I be thinking about how to provide the best substitution until we get back into our sanctuary? Or should I be using my gifts in a new way? It takes different parts of your brain. It takes different levels of brain power, and it's emotional to imagine that you're ushering in a new way of being with the group. There are economic concerns as well. When all of the quarantining began, I had to decide, should I spend $100 on a professional Zoom account? I mean, you can get a free Zoom account, but the meetings are only 40 minutes unless you go one-on-one. And all of this is having to be decided, in the first week or two, because the special that makes it only be $100 is only in place for a short time. Well, anyway, I decided that we would probably be using Zoom a lot, and I spent the money, and I'm glad. But these decisions are just coming up constantly all the time. It took learning through reading and discussions to make that $100 decision. Well, now that we have been, doing the online service for a few weeks, and we understand more of the obstacles to using online music, we're looking at which licensing to buy or whether we should. All of this takes time, effort, research, real research, collaboration, discussion, and it takes having enough time with freedom from mental anguish to be curious and investigatory. I am pleased to tell you, this is not some admission that I'm burned out. This is a note to you all that I feel hopeful about our ongoing vitality as a community. I am willing to embrace new information, turn them into hopeful changes, and watch them signal positive outcomes. There are some pieces of living in quarantine that are just going to stay uncertain. I anticipate that times will come when the governor says one thing about opening, but we choose to remain safe, and I anticipate this could cause conflict. I anticipate that the grief of losing people, whether to COVID or other means of dying, are going to weigh very heavily. They already are. The inability to gather and share strength in that way, it wears on us. It definitely weighs on me. So, I've shared the minute details of our process, but the most important thing I think that I've done in this fireside chat is to ask you a question to ponder with me. Online services. Is this just a substitution, or is this a change? I think it's a change. I'd love to hear from you all. I spoke at length about issues around licensing and permissions, and here's where you can help. If you have a piece of music to sing, please do that. Record it on your phone, but don't download it onto YouTube before you send it. If you download it onto YouTube and send us the link, they may or may not allow it. Even if we have permission, they're going to flag it and eventually tell us we can use it, but it might be too late. We're also building a library of music and resources from UUFE that we can use. So, Taylor, talk to Arispa. Tell her that she should play her ukulele and sing a song and send it to us. Dwight and Oksana, you know how a lot of times you're in the kitchen at church and you're singing while you're doing dishes? If you do that at home, could you hit record and send that to us so that we can use it? And if music isn't your thing, but you have a reading or a poem or a joke or a photo that you would like to contribute to the spiritual well-being of your beloved community, please do that. My kids are pulling out their viola and their sheet music, Patty, and they're playing stuff, and maybe we'll have a concert sometime from here. I invite you to think about sharing your spirit with us, your imperfect, quarantined spiritual self. These online services are going to keep morphing. The technology is going to keep changing. Kevin and I are going to stay right on top of all of the ways to do services. My energy levels are going to wax and wane, so will yours. Through it all, we will think about that church banner that hangs in our sanctuary. It tells us and everyone who sees it that UUFE is steadfast as a growing tree. So let's blossom together. Do some music, do some reading, do something funny or great or whatever. Do it. Do it on your phone, send it to Kevin, and let's enjoy ourselves together. Blessed be. Amen. Stay home in peace.